So many of you left comments on my last video asking, what about the Century series? And you know what? You were right to ask. Today we will cover F-100 all the way through the F-106, the legendary Century series, and then we are also looking at what came after, like the North American F-107, the General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark, and even the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk. These aircraft did not just push aviation forward, they marked the shift into the supersonic, missile-driven age of air combat. Alright, so first things first, why did America even need these jets? World War II ends in 1945, and almost immediately, tensions rise with the Soviet Union. Now both sides have nuclear weapons, and the Soviets are developing long-range bombers capable of reaching American cities. That creates a serious problem. The North American F-86 Sabre was great for dogfighting, but it wasn't built to stop fast, high-altitude nuclear bombers. So the US Air Force realized it needed something completely new, faster aircraft, capable of flying higher, equipped with radar and guided missiles, and able to intercept threats before they ever reached US airspace. Starting in the early 1950s, that is exactly what they built. One aircraft after another, each pushing the limits of speed, altitude, and technology. They all carry designations in the hundreds, F-100, F-101, F-102, and so on. And that is where the name comes from, the Century series, Century as in 100. Now, let's meet them one by one. First up, the one that started it all, the F-100 Super Sabre. This plane did something no American jet had ever done before. It flew faster than the speed of sound in a straight line, not diving down, not cheating, just flying straight and going supersonic. That was a huge moment in history. It had 4 guns, it could carry bombs and missiles, it could fly above 50,000 feet, that is about 15 kilometers up in the sky. But the F-100 had a dark side too. Let's talk about that. A brand new F-100C is flying from the factory to its base. The pilot is Lieutenant Barty Brooks. During the flight, something goes wrong with the nose landing gear. It will not stay in place properly. So Lieutenant Brooks tries to land at Edwards Air Force Base, which has a longer runway. He comes in to land, but his speed drops too low. The nose comes up too high. And here's the problem with the F-100. If the speed drops too much, it stops flying. It cannot save itself. The engine is not powerful enough to recover. The jet starts to wobble, it rocks left and right. It staggers through the air with the nose pointing up. Pilots who saw this terrifying flying style gave it a name. They called it the Sabre Dance. The jet tries to climb, it rolls to the right, and it crashes into the ground in a huge fireball. Lieutenant Brooks did not survive. This crash was caught on film by cameras that were set up for a different test that day. The whole world could now see just how dangerous the F-100 could be when things went wrong. The Sabre Dance was a reminder these early jets were incredible machines, but they were also very unforgiving. One small mistake, one moment of low speed, and it was over. Before we move on, let's just look at what the F-100 Super Sabre did in Vietnam as a whole. The F-100 flew more than 360,000 sorties in Vietnam, more than any other aircraft, including the famous F-4 Phantom and F-105. So what are sorties? A sortie is one complete mission flown by an aircraft. It starts when the plane takes off and ends when it lands. For example, if a pilot flies one mission and returns, that is one sortie. If the same pilot flies 3 separate missions in a day, that counts as 3 sorties. In military reports, when they say the United States Air Force flew hundreds of sorties, they mean hundreds of individual missions were completed. A sortie does not mean how many enemies were destroyed or how long the aircraft stayed in the air. It simply counts how many missions were flown. At its peak, over 490 Super Sabres were active in South Vietnam, flying an average of 2 ground support missions every single day. But the price was heavy. Over 242 F-100s were lost in Vietnam, and more than 889 were lost in accidents, killing 324 pilots. This was not an easy jet to fly. It demanded respect. And the pilots who flew it like Swede Swendner gave everything they had. Next is the F-101 Voodoo, and this jet looks scary because the Voodoo was big, it had 2 powerful engines. It was built to fly far and fast. F-101A Voodoo became the first American jet to fly faster than 1,000 miles per hour.
Shooting for world speed record in the Air Force's F-101A Voodoo fighter bomber, Major Adrian E. Drew takes to the air at the Air Force Flight Test Center. He sets a new world record of 1,207 and 6/10 miles per hour, bettering the previous British record by more than 75 miles per hour.
In the 1950s, that is incredible. The Voodoo had many jobs. It protected bombers, it took spy photos, it stopped enemy planes. The F-101B carried nuclear rockets, specifically the 2AI R-2A rockets, plus 2 AIM-4 missiles. Now look at this shape, that big triangle wing. This is the F-102 Delta Dagger. The F-102 has a famous story. When engineers first built it, it could not go supersonic. It was too slow, too much air drag. So the engineers came up with a clever idea. They shaped it like a Coke bottle, wider in the middle and narrower at the ends. That design reduced drag and helped the jet go supersonic. This idea was called area rule. Every modern fast jet uses this idea today. The F-102 was built as an interceptor. Its job was simple: if Soviet bombers come, go up and stop them. It served that role through the 1960s and flew missions in Vietnam too. Now, before we get to F-104, let me tell you about F-103 because this one has a fascinating story. In 1949, the Air Force wanted a supersonic interceptor to destroy Soviet bombers. Republic Aircraft came up with the XF-103, a design capable of flying at Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound, at 80,000 feet altitude. That is 24 kilometers straight up. It had 2 engines working together, a normal jet engine for takeoff, then a ramjet engine for extreme speed. The ramjet would kick in and push it to Mach 3. It had missiles stored inside the body, 6 of them, plus 36 small rockets. So what happened? 3 big problems. The whole jet was made of titanium, extremely difficult to work with. The engines kept having delays, and costs kept going up. Then America realized the Soviet bomber threat was not as big as they thought. Soviets were building missiles, not bombers. So a Mach 3 bomber killer was suddenly not needed anymore. On August 21, 1957, the Air Force canceled the F-103 completely. It never got past a wooden mock-up, never built, never flown, just drawings and a wooden model. And because it never entered service, the F-103 is not part of the official Century series. Okay, stop everything because this one is special, the F-104 Starfighter. Look at it. It looks like a missile with wings, tiny, tiny wings. A very long, thin body. It is one of the most extreme jets ever built. Pilots even called it the missile with a man in it. The F-104 was designed by a legendary engineer named Kelly Johnson. He wanted one thing: speed, pure speed. And the results? Amazing. The F-104 was the first jet that could fly at Mach 2, that is 2 times the speed of sound, and hold it. Not just for a second. Sustained Mach 2 flight. And here is the most amazing fact: the F-104 held 3 world records at the same time. The speed record, the altitude record, and the climb rate record. All 3 at once. No other jet in history has ever done that. The wings were so thin and sharp. This jet was not easy to fly. It was dangerous, but it was also a legend. Even today, NASA still flies some F-104Gs. The Starfighter was simply incredible. The F-105 Thunderchief, pilots called it the Thud. The Thud was big, heavy, fast, and it was built to carry a lot of bombs deep into enemy territory. F-105 flew about 20,000 combat sorties in Vietnam. Every single day, F-105s flew into some of the most dangerous skies in history. Enemy missiles everywhere, anti-aircraft guns everywhere. The losses were very heavy. Many brave pilots never came home, but the Thunderchief never stopped flying. It kept going mission after mission. Pilots who flew it respected it. It was tough, it did its job, and it paid a very high price in Vietnam. The F-106 Delta Dart. People called it the ultimate interceptor, and that title fits perfectly. The F-106 was built from the lessons of the F-102. It was faster, smarter, more powerful. Its one and only job: protect America from Soviet nuclear bombers. Every night, every day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. The F-106 was connected to a massive computer defense system on the ground. The ground computers would track Soviet planes. They would tell the F-106 where to go. The jet and the computers worked together, and the F-106 carried nuclear air-to-air missiles. The pilot could fire a nuclear missile at an enemy bomber. Even if he missed, the nuclear explosion would destroy the bomber anyway. This jet served from 1959 all the way into the 1980s. Over 20 years of protecting the skies. When they retired the F-106, some were turned into remote-controlled drones, then shot down by missiles during tests. A strange ending for such a great jet. The F-117, and this one actually flew. Look at it. Something looks strange. Yes, the air intake is on top of the jet, not the front, not the sides. The top, right behind the cockpit. Nobody had ever done that before. North American Aviation built it in 1956. It was fast, it was capable. It could carry nuclear weapons, it could fly at Mach 2. But here's the problem. At the same time, the F-105 Thunderchief existed. The Air Force compared both jets, and in 1957, they chose the F-105. The F-107 lost the competition. Just like that, 3 prototypes were built. They flew some test flights, and then they were sent to museums. One of the most unique looking jets ever built, and nobody ever flew it in combat. The F-108 Rapier, this one never even got off the ground. In 1957, North American Aviation started designing a massive long-range interceptor. Its job: fly far into the Arctic, find Soviet bombers coming over the North Pole, and destroy them before they reached America. The plan was impressive. It was going to fly at Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound at 80,000 feet, with long-range missiles inside its body. But in 1959, it was canceled. too expensive, too complex. And America was now more worried about Soviet missiles, not bombers. Not a single F-108 was ever built, only drawings and models exist. Another great idea, killed by the Cold War budget. The F-109, what is it? Nothing. Literally nothing. The number F-109 was briefly given to the F-101B Voodoo in some paperwork. Then someone requested it for a brand new experimental VTOL jet, a jet that could take off straight up like a helicopter called the Bell XF-109. That request was denied. So the F-109 was never officially given to any real jet. No jet ever flew with that number. F-109 is just a number, an empty slot in history. The F-110. This one is simple. You already know this jet, just by a different name. In 1961, the US Air Force wanted to use the Navy's F-4 Phantom II, a fantastic jet, already proven, already flying, but the Air Force gave it their own name, the F-110 Spectre. So for a short time, the exact same jet had two names. The Navy called it the F-4 Phantom. The Air Force called it the F-110 Spectre. This caused so much confusion across all the military branches that in 1962, America decided enough is enough. They created one unified naming system for all jets across all branches. Under the new system, the F-110 Spectre officially became the F-4 Phantom II. One name for everyone. Now this one is real. The F-111 Aardvark, and it did something no jet had done before. Its wings could move in flight. The pilot could change the shape of the wings depending on what he needed. Wings spread wide for slow speed takeoff and landing. Wings swept back tight for going supersonic and fast. This was called variable sweep wings. Revolutionary in 1967, the F-111 first flew in 1964. It entered service in 1967. And it served all the way until 1998, over 30 years. It flew in Vietnam in 1968. It bombed Libya in 1986 on direct orders from President Reagan. And in the Gulf War in 1991, it destroyed over 1,500 Iraqi tanks. One jet type, 1,500 tanks. Devastating. The FB-111 was the bomber version. Same jet, but built specifically for long-range nuclear strikes. It flew so low and so fast that enemy radar could barely track it. The F-111 was not pretty, but it was powerful and it worked. The word Aardvark is Afrikaans for earth pig and reflects the look of the long nose of the aircraft that might remind one of the nose of the Aardvark. Now these numbers, F-112 to F-116, are very interesting. No American jets ever officially carried these numbers. So what are they? During the 1970s, America had a top secret program. They got their hands on real Soviet jets, MiG-21s, MiG-23s, captured or bought secretly from other countries. America flew these Soviet jets at secret bases to learn how they flew, how to fight against them, how to beat them, and to keep it all secret, they gave these jets unofficial American F numbers as code names. Pilots who flew in this secret program were forbidden to talk about it for decades. The program was called Constant Peg, and it trained hundreds of American fighter pilots to fight and beat Soviet jets, real flights, totally secret, and totally fascinating. And finally, the F-117 Nighthawk, the most famous secret jet in history. Look at that shape, nothing like it. Flat panels, sharp angles, no curves anywhere. It looks like something from a science fiction movie, and that shape is the whole point. Those flat panels deflect radar signals away, like a mirror deflecting light. Enemy radar sends out a signal. The F-117 bounces it away in a different direction. The radar gets nothing back, the jet disappears. This is stealth technology, and the F-117 was the first jet in the world ever built entirely around it. First flight, 1981. Entered Secret Service, 1983. For years, nobody outside the program knew it existed. It flew secret missions at night, always at night. That is why it was called the Nighthawk. The Air Force even called it a fighter, an F-jet. Even though it had no air-to-air weapons at all, it only dropped bombs. But calling it a fighter attracted the best pilots to the secret program. Then in 1989, the F-117 was revealed to the public for the first time. America finally showed the world what it had been hiding, and in the Gulf War in 1991, the F-117 proved itself completely. One of the most effective combat jets ever built. The F-117 was retired in 2008, but some are believed to still fly occasionally for testing dark shapes in the night sky. On March 27, 1999, a Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk was shot down during the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. A Serbian air defense unit engaged the aircraft using an S-125 Neva. The F-117 followed a predictable route and was briefly exposed on radar during its bomb bay operation. The enemy used short radar activation and achieved a missile lock. 2 surface-to-air missiles were launched. The aircraft was hit and went down. The pilot, Dale Zelko, ejected and was later recovered. If you like these kinds of videos, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We also made a video covering fighter jets from the F-1 to the F-35. Check it out here or find the link in our description.